What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another exciting episode. Today we're going to be taking a look at something that's been really in the works for I think over a year now that I've been playing around with. I've been talking back and forth with the maker of this product, and it's been really fun fishing with this. You've kind of seen glimpses of it, but I really just wanted to wait until I got a good full-on experience with basically all of the models that we're going to be talking about today. And of course, that is the new Lowdown Custom Standard Issue Swimbait rods. So if you guys are ready, let's get right into today's video.
Used to kind of this now.
And that's like that. Like that. That was weird. Oh. That's a good one. You know what, if I go... Oh, wow. No, you're good, dude. You're good.
Yeah, tire eater. When I really, oh my goodness.
That's right there. Redemption.
So I've been fishing Lowdown Custom rods for, oh man, how long has it been now? I think maybe at least 7, maybe 8 years now at this point. And the first ever rod that I got was an old school Lowdown Custom production series rod. It was an 8-foot extra heavy rod that I got from a guy that was selling it for like $150. And from the very first time I used it and I caught like a 7.5 pounder on it, I absolutely fell in love with that rod. So when Ben from Lowdown came to me and said, hey, I revamped those production rods and I've made them double, triple times better, would you like to try them? I said, absolutely, dude, send me some models. And so I was able to get my hands on these rods, and ever since using them, I've gotten to put them under a lot of load, caught a lot of fish on them. So today we're taking a look at the new standard issue rods from Lowdown Custom Rods. So for models, there is 8 different versions and 4 different powers. We have some medium heavies. We have a 7.9 medium heavy. This just so happens to be the 8.3 medium heavy that I grabbed. It's going to be a 1 to 4 ounce rod. We also have a heavy version. This is going to be that 8-foot to 8'6" version in a 2 to 7 ounce rod. Then for the extra heavy model, we have 8-foot, 8'6" again. This is going to be more of that 3 to 8 ounce rod right here. And then finally, the big boy rod, the rod for real strong men. This is going to be that double extra heavy, again, in that 8-foot and 8'6". This is that 6 to 12 ounce rated rod. And so, a lot of different models, a lot of different versions of the rods. Now, you might be asking yourself, why are there 2 different sizes for each model? And I think for the most part, how I viewed it is, when I come over here and I want to pick up between an 8-foot or an 8'6", you know, whatever, whether it be a heavy, an extra heavy, or a double extra heavy, it kind of just depends on the situation of where I'm fishing, whether or not I'm making a super bomb cast on a point, or if I'm fishing super tight up against a wall and I've got to make the right super accurate cast, is kind of what determines whether I pick up an 8-foot or an 8'6" rod. So I like that shorter rod, that 8-foot. If I'm just making shorter, more accurate casts, there's not as much rod, it doesn't feel as heavy, so it's just nice and easy. Just toss it around, boom, boom. I can make those nice, accurate casts. But if I'm fishing, you know, in the middle of winter and I've got to make that super bomb cast, and I've got to sink the bait down 30, 40 feet of water, that's when I normally will pick up that 8.6 rod so I can have a little bit extra length to make those casts. And when you go up to that 8'6", it adds 4 inches to this part, the actual blank of the rod, and then it adds a couple inches back here on the handle as well. So that's basically how I choose between the two different sizes. Now, when it comes down to choosing the different powers, obviously that's all dependent on the lures. Obviously, the medium heavy, that 1 to 4 ounce is going to be perfect for that, 2 ounce stuff, 3 ounce stuff. So I'm throwing tiny clashes on it. I'm throwing like the Spro Chad on it. I'm throwing that style of baits on it where it's going to be rated perfectly for that. And then for the heavy is rated from that 2 to 7. And so I've thrown 3, 4, 5 ounce stuff on it and I felt pretty comfortable. I think the heaviest I've thrown on it is a Tyrant 10, where I caught a fish in Lake Austin with my buddy Jared using that heavy rod. And then I've gone to like the Clash 9 on that rod as well. So anything in that range, that heavy works really, really well for it. Then once you get up to that extra heavy, I'm throwing like your more traditional, 5, 6, maybe 7 ounce lures. Normally I'm living on like a depths 250 range, something in that 6 ounces, like a 10-inch mag draft or a depths 250, something 6 ounces or around there lives basically all the time on that extra heavy. And then once you get up to that big boy, the double extra heavy, I'm throwing DRT Clash Ghosts, I'm throwing Mothers, I'm throwing Hinkles, the Frenzy. I'm throwing that style just because it's rated at 6 to 12. So that 8, 9, 10 works really, really well on that double extra heavy. Now, the power of these rods is really similar to how the original production models were. They're really strong rods, but they have some forgiveness, and that's that parabolic action. Like the rod bends way down here in the blank. So, when you're fishing a treble hook bait, whether that's a glide bait or a treble hook on a soft bait or something like that, this is able to really bend when it needs to. But if it doesn't need to and you really got to horse that fish in from cover, this rod has the power to do that. And so it's like a 2-in-1. It's parabolic, but it's got a lot of power as well. And which is what I really, really loved about that original rod, is that on the cast, it loads super, super nice. But when I'm fighting a fish, I never felt like, the rod's like too soft, when I'm fighting a fish. But it's got that nice 2-in-1 action, and I really, really love fighting and just casting with these rods. The other thing with these rods is that the components of the rods are really, really nice. You've got Fuji double-seated guides here that go all the way up. Now, you might notice that the guides have switched now. This is a spiral wrapped rod. Some guys still don't really know what spiral wrapped is. I still get a lot of questions whenever I do fish these rods, like, hey, that dude's guides are all messed up. What the heck's up with that rod? And it's just a spiral wrap. And spiral wrap is basically just what you see here is where the first guide starts normal and then it starts twisting around. This one twists to the right. So I'm right-handed. It doesn't really matter that much, but when it comes down to spiral wrap, does it make a huge difference? I've been fishing non-spiral wrap for many years now. I guess I couldn't really tell that huge of a difference, but the idea of it is for torque. And you see that a lot in some of these saltwater rods that have the spiral wrap, is when those rods are able to really fight some of those fish and your line isn't hitting the blank of the rod when it's like that. So some guys love spiral wrap, some guys absolutely hate it. Does it affect castability, fighting the fish? Like, I haven't really noticed a huge difference. I think it really just comes down to preference. I've always thought that spiral wrap just looked cool, so I've always just liked having it. I haven't been like, I had this one bad thing happen. Like, none of that's ever happened. So then you're going to come down here to the actual grip part of it here. Now, all the models, this from basically reel seat to the butt end is about 16 inches, except for that 7.9 medium heavy. That one's 15 inches just because it's a much shorter rod. But 16 inches, I feel like that's a pretty good length. I know some guys like it maybe a little bit shorter. I know some guys maybe might like it a little bit longer, but I find that the 16-inch works really, really well for basically all of the baits that I fish. What's cool is it's got basically two lockdown mechanisms. It's got the standard one here, but then it's got this second locking nut, so your reel doesn't come off this rod ever. So super nice components overall. It's a really nice stylish rod, kind of blacked out, murdered with some dark charcoal gray. And what's cool is, you know, with Ben from Lowdown, he didn't want to have a bunch of advertisement on the actual blank of the rod, so you really can't see any writing on it, but it's there. It's just in like a weird black glossy finish that only in certain light can you actually read it, and I think that's really cool. So when you're fishing with it, or you know, you're making a post on Instagram, it just looks really sleek, especially when you've got that reel on there. It's not a whole bunch of advertisement and stuff like that. I think Ben from Lowdown did a really, really good job on that. But in the right lighting, you can actually see what the specs are. And if you can't see it on that, or you know, if you buy multiple of these rods and you've got a bunch of like ferrules around, the actual ferrule part here does show you what this is supposed to match up to. So it's super easy to keep them intact. Now, speaking of attaching the actual handle part to the rod, it's just like any old ferrule. If you're not used to a ferrule, don't be scared of it. I know some guys think of like, oh no, I'm going to make a cast and my old rod's going to just fly out. I've owned many, many different ferruled rods, whether it's the actual Japanese ones or some of the American ones like these rods, that's literally never, ever happened. And so basically what you want to do is you want to have your handle here straight. You're going to come in kind of at a quarter turn off, and then as you bring it in, you want to twist like that until it's straight. When it's straight, and basically that twisting mechanism there just allows it to kind of just catch on the inside of the handle really, really well, to where the thing's on there. Oh god, almost broke the rod. So as you saw, it's a lot of grip there. So what's nice is with each rod that you get, it actually comes with some ferrule wax, which you basically just put on the male end of the rod, and that just helps put it on, have it stay on there, and it also helps taking the ferrule apart. I know a lot of guys, you know, a big reason why anybody even wants a ferrule is for storage. So instead of having, you know, a long 8-foot rod, this thing kind of collapses down and it fits in one of these nice neoprene sleeves. Super, super easy. So if you're trying to load it in your car or load it in a rod locker, it's just a little bit shorter, a little bit easier to manage overall because of the ferrule. So I'm a huge fan of the ferrule rods. I've never ever had really any problems with it. I think Ben absolutely nailed it with these rods when it comes down to ferruling. And most rods nowadays, when they have to have some type of ferruling, it's done in a right or good manner. So those are the standard issues by Lowdown Custom. Again, I absolutely have been really loving these rods for the past like year and a half or so that I've been fishing them. I've caught a lot of fish on them, from soft baits to hard baits to up top to down deep. I've had a lot of fun with these rods, and they've done a really, really fantastic job for me. They're lightweight, they're stylish, and they're just cool, sick rods. So if you guys ever want to try and pick one of these up, we did over at the Hookup Tackle actually just get these rods in. The only US tackle shop to have these rods in. So I'll leave a link to those rods if you guys wanted to check them out and pick one up. But absolutely love these rods. For $3.99, you really can't beat it. There's a lot of rods now out on the market, which a lot of them are really, really good rods. But I've been really fortunate to work with Ben in the past, and you know, hopefully we can keep this friendship going, and hopefully he keeps making some really, really badass rods. So if you guys have any questions about the rods, from lures or fish on them or anything else, just let me know with a comment down below, and I'll try and get back to them as fast as possible. I think I'm going to be getting on a plane to Japan soon, or maybe I'm already in Japan. But either way, I'll try and answer some questions for you guys. So on that, thank you guys ever so much for watching. And as always, please go out there and chase your dreams.